this is probably one of the most exciting episodes of the podcast to date. I mean, firstly, because we have such a talented guest.
Appreciate that, mate.
And secondly, because we're filming our first episode. And yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity just to thank London Sound Academy for having us here. We're right here in Camden, in the Camden studio. And yeah, also shout out to Buster Bennet for making this happen, because if it wasn't for him, then we wouldn't be here right now.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome. But obviously enough about the podcast and more about the guests. So if I'm correct, you have DJ'd around the world.
Yep.
You have been in the UK, you've DJ'd in Germany, you've DJ'd in Gibraltar, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of worldwide stuff, right? Over the course of the years. I had, through the different artist careers I've had 2 different ones. One was more kind of the big room sound, like 10 years ago. And then now I'm on a more kind of deeper journey with the more deep minimal, deep tech kind of tech under Marcellus. But yeah, I've played in America, throughout Spain, Australia, Thailand. I even played in Israel last January. So like yeah, a lot of places which I'd never go to if it wasn't for.
It just took you on that.
Yeah,
that
it
journey.
takes. I mean, like, I've played on rooftops in London to in the middle of the jungle in Thailand. So for a job to be able to take you to those places, I'm on the back of a little motorbike going through the jungle down to the stage to play. Like, it's just, it's surreal,
Wow. Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to travel and, see the world doing something you love. Because when you are taken by the promoters in a particular country, it's like going on holiday and staying with locals. They know where the spots are. They know where that amazing beach is that the tourists don't know about. They know where to get the really nice food.
Yeah.
So it can really introduce you more to the culture of a country, rather than just going as a tourist and going to the usual ocean beach or whatever, like the usual tourist traps. Like you can really like get a feel for, and obviously they're all like locals.
Yeah.
So you can really see, like, for instance, last year I played in Italy, in Lombardia, in the mountains at a pool party. And the next day they took me to like this lake, and we went out on this little boat, was swimming in the lake. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
If I went with, my mates or something to Italy, we would have done that.
No, you just wouldn't even like associate
all
that.
No.
And then, like you said, you're almost being brought into the circle of the locals.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
But no, like we were saying, you've DJ'd around the world. You've also you're also a tutor here right now.
Yep.
And on top of that, you're obviously a very talented selector and producer, based on the fact that you've been signed by record labels like Hard Tracks, Elro, Deeper Effect,
and Solid Grooves. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. It's really, really cool. And obviously people in the DJ community obviously think that your tracks are pretty sick as well, considering Michael Beebe just played one of your tracks last week.
Barcelona. Barcelona.
And I don't think I quite introduced you just yet to the audience, but this is Marcellus, and I just wanted to say,
hi guys,
thank you so much for
thank you for having me on,
for joining us, mate. It's awesome.
It's good to be here, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries, man. No worries. But yeah, I just wanted to ask one question first as well. Like your name, your DJ name.
Yeah.
What's that based? Because that's the same name as a character in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it is. Is
that what it's based on?
Yeah. So I love Quentin Tarantino. I'm a big film lover, and Pulp Fiction was always, it was the first Tarantino movie I saw. And when I first started doing the Marcellus project, it was actually me and a friend. And we were called Marcellus Wallace. So I was Marcellus, he was Wallace. So it was a duo.
Nice.
And then as it went on, as duos do, they split sometimes. Still very, very good friends. Shout out to Breeze, who was the other member. But it went that way. And then I thought, right, let me just rebrand as something else. And it was actually Yusuf. You know Yusuf?
No.
He runs a brand in Liverpool called Circus.
Okay, sick.
And he's a big, big part of the dance community, has been for many years, and runs Circus recordings. He's always playing around the world. And I sent him a demo, and he actually emailed me back and said, you know what, Marcellus Wallace, cool, but it feels a bit novelty. And it feels a bit like you won't be taken seriously because it's a character out. You know, when I'm posting stuff on social media and people are putting like memes of Samuel Jackson, like say what again and all this.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, maybe it would be good. He was like, just lose the Wallace. And I just watched The Social Network, the film The Social Network, where Justin Timberlake comes in and goes, the Facebook should just be Facebook.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know what? Simplicity.
Yeah.
So I've rebranded as Marcellus, and it actually really works. I was taking a lot more seriously. There was no more Samuel Jackson, Mia Wallace overdosing on my timeline, which was nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been like that, I think, for about 5-6 years now.
Awesome.
But it just went after that.
Sick. No, I think that's really cool that, like, even though you slightly rebranded, you were still able to sort of hold on to an aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's still got that sort of deeper meaning.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're lucky this isn't a film podcast, because I could talk all day about
about Tarantino,
Yeah, but it's so
well, it was a toss-up between Marcellus Wallace and Vincent Vega.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what, Marcellus Wallace sounds cooler.
It does, mate.
But Vincent wouldn't have been the same.
No, I feel like as though Marcellus's character's a little bit more mysterious as well.
Yeah.
Based on
I mean, what happens to him is it's good.
Nah.
But we won't talk about that.
Yeah, no, maybe keep it PG. Yeah, that's like a rough ending.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, definitely. But no, that's a really cool sort of origin story in that sense. And I also just sort of wanted to maybe like look back a little bit further from that and sort of think about, you know, was there ever a moment in your life where it was maybe a moment in music where you were like, it was like a light bulb moment, you're like, I want to be a DJ. Like what was that sort of moment, if there was one?
I think it was mainly when I started in hip hop. So with hip hop, it was always like the producer was behind the scenes. Whereas when I started making house music, you know, the cliche story, I did go to Ibiza and did fall in love with it, and then did go, you know what, house music's for me, not hip hop. And I feel like what happened was, it wasn't like you're a producer sitting behind the scenes and the MC took the stage. If I wanted to make house music, if I wanted to perform that live, I had to be a DJ. So that was the only reason why I started playing, because I needed a way to have a live element to the project. So that was the main reason. It was mainly to get my productions out there. Yeah. And then when you first started producing, you're not going to get booked for you because no one knows your sound yet. Sure. So then I actually started doing West End stuff first. Back in the day, there was a club called Vendome. That's where I had my first ever DJ gig. Sick. And yeah, it went from there. But obviously, as a lot of DJs do when you're starting out, or even DJs I know that are doing well, you kind of do your bread and butter gigs for money, and then you have your artist-led gigs, and they're two kind of separate things. You kind of play what needs to be played at these gigs for your bread and butter, and then you've got your more high-profile artist gigs where you have a more stylistic set. Yeah, and you play for less time, obviously, like hour, 2 hour sets, rather than 4 or 5 hours for the night. But something to be said for them 4 or 5 hour sets. They give you a lot of experience. And they also like give you a more wide reach of what music's out there, how to control a room, how to like, you know, play and keep a crowd engaged. Sure. So, you know, there's always benefits to doing these things. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And also I can imagine just sort of what you were saying about learning so much in that 4 or 5 hour time frame. Like, I feel like to a lot of people that maybe is quite daunting. Like, because I feel like there's probably pros and cons to both. If maybe you've got an hour, it's probably quite hard to pick what songs you want to use. Whereas with 4 or 5 is almost like, do I know? You can relax. Yeah. Oh yeah. Do I have enough? Do I have enough? Yeah. Have I got enough bangers? So like, that's kind of interesting in that sense. Yeah, definitely. Sure. But yeah, I mean, so you mentioned also that you had a experience with your first DJ set. Was it Vendome? You said yes. What was that like? Was that
Was that like
was
was that really stuck in your mind then?
Yeah, well, I actually forgot my headphones, which wasn't a great start. But I've never forgotten my headphones ever.
Yeah, never again. Well, that's a great lesson.
For years, I carried 2 sets.
Yeah.
Just in because I just had it just really gave me PTSD about headphones. But them silly mistakes you only make once, you know. You only take one USB to a gig and I haven't got a link cable. Them kind of things. I always carry a link cable, always carry a backup USB, always make sure I've got my headphones. But yeah, it was. Look, I wasn't really ready, but who is? You have to just throw yourselves in, don't you?
100%. Yeah. No, I feel like even with this episode, it's the first time. I feel like you're never really gonna do it if you don't just get stuck in. You know.
I appreciate.
The
beta test.
Yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, man, it's definitely an experience when it's your first sort of time, and I suppose as well, maybe just sort of coming a little bit forward into terms of where you're just now as well. You're obviously performing, you're obviously creating, and you're also now teaching as well at the London Sound Academy as a tutor. So what's that like, and what's the sort of motivation behind that?
Yeah, I love teaching. Initially, I was at London Sound Academy for, it must have been 2 or 3 years pre-pandemic. And then it was I knew one of the other tutors, Ben Smith, who works here, great DJ, great producer as well, shout out to Ben. And he was the one that kind of got me involved with the academy initially. Then I had a break over the pandemic and I was touring a lot anyway. And then I just found that with such a hectic studio schedule, you're in that room on your own a lot. And sometimes you can just run out of creativity and you need a switch up in space. And I love teaching. I love meeting new people. I love if I've been playing for 15 years, it's nice to be able to pass that knowledge on to people and also to make connections with people, get out of the studio for a couple of days a week. Yeah, and also it's great to keep up on the trends with new equipment. True. London Sound Academy is great. They've always got the cutting edge equipment. They're always really pushing for the maximum that you can get out of the equipment. Whereas if you're a DJ, you would learn what you needed to play, but not necessarily the full spectrum of the all the functions of the decks and the RMX and the samplers and vinyl and stuff like that.
Yeah,
equipment's expensive.
Yeah, you're right.
So you don't get a chance to use that to its full capability. And also when some students have said, "Oh, what does this do?" I'm like, you know what? I don't know. So it's nice. And then I'll go away and research it, and you find different things. And also you meet some raw, talented people that don't even know it yet. You have some people that come in that think they're amazing, and you can tell that their want is greater than the talent. And then you get some people that come in that they're very understated. They don't think they're that good, but you can just tell they're sick. Yeah.
That must be kind of a rewarding experience as well, bringing that out of someone as well, the fact that you can almost already clock it. And I think as well, kind of what you were sort of speaking on was kind of interesting as well, with a sort of perspective as well, because I don't know about you, but I feel whenever you're teaching someone something, it's almost when you're almost going over it again, it sort of slightly just changes your perspective on what, and it almost makes you better just by rehashing stuff. And
you've got to be good.
Yeah,
you got to make sure you're good.
Yeah,
because if you're teaching people, you want them to learn the right way.
Yeah.
And it's also quite satisfying because when you have someone come in that's got holes in their knowledge, or they're maybe already playing and they weren't even ready to play, and then you bring them up to the stand-up where, for example, there was a girl called Malika that came in recently. She has a very good opportunity with a brand called Music On, and she came in saying, I need to get my DJing better.
Yeah.
And we kind of filled in the gaps with stuff, and sometimes it's something silly, it could just be the analysis ticked wrong in Recordbox, and that means that the BPMs are changing the whole time, and people be like, why is this happening? But it's literally just a click,
literally,
and that can just change everything. And it's nice that people can feel like they get so much worth out of.
Oh, maybe %. my background's in video more so than actual music. So being honest, like I know nothing about really like the production or the mixing side of things, but I can definitely relate in the sense that, you know, you could be editing a bit of content or whatever, and it's the smallest thing.
Yeah.
Just that little tick of a box or whatever could change the whole
thing. Yeah.
Project.
The final 10%.
Literally. And in terms of, I suppose, like, you know, you're kind of talking with these people, you want them to become successful, you know, it helps out. It's a win-win if someone that you teach becomes successful, right? So, like, what does success look like to you as a DJ?
I mean, there's levels. I mean, I think the first level is being strictly DJing without production. I guess the first level of being a successful DJ is being able to do it full time.
Yeah, true.
And the second level would be to actually become, you know, a touring DJ on the kind of world stage, as it were, which is becoming more like, there was a thing back in the day where Carl Cox and people like that came up. They didn't need to be producers. They were just DJs, right? And then we went through this phase where you had to be a producer. But now I feel like it's going flipping again. A lot of females coming onto the scene, a lot of DJs coming onto the scene that don't necessarily produce. Obviously it helps, but people can break now just being a good DJ. You know, someone takes a liking to them and says, you know what, I want you to warm up for me on a tour or whatever, and they don't need to produce. Whereas everyone has their own journey, I guess. Some, like with me, I needed, because I started as a producer, I always have that. So for me, like, DJing is almost like just a live aspect to what I'm making. Yeah,
no, that makes sense, because I feel like it must be, as someone who's wanting to go down that sort of journey, I feel like it must be kind of hard to sort of decide what path you want to take, almost like, is what do you want to specialize in? Because like you said, there's that almost pressure that if you wanted to do X, you had to do Y. So like, did you ever find that you were ever like, you know, sort of swinging more towards one or the other, or would you say that that's always just been kind of natural for you?
I mean, I love both. I feel like with me, I can't DJ without doing the music. So I always have to make sure the tracks are there first, because that's kind of what makes hype. But I mean, there has been occasions when, like, for example, when I was doing a lot of lockdown raves in the pandemic, I got put on to 2 events by MK because he saw me play at a lockdown rave. So, you know, I did play a couple of my own tracks, but it wasn't that got me the gigs with him. He was literally like, he said to someone, oh, who's DJing? And they were like, Marcellus. And then he was like, oh, I want to book him for Printworks. And like, you know, you'd have to release quite a bit of music to get a Printworks gig where someone can just be like, you're on. So it's kind of like the main way that you need to progress is to know where you sit. And I think you even know that from very early on. I see it in the academy. Some people are like, this is my genre, you know. And then on the other end of the scale, people are coming in and saying, you know, I'm like, what do you like? And they're like, everything. So it's kind of like you need to really hone in on exactly what you want to do and find out who's at the top of the game and kind of navigate that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's almost kind of like, you know, in that sort of instance, there's kind of no guarantee as well when you went to that event that would happen.
No,
you know,
them kind of things are just so random and by chance. And like those are the things you can't plan.
Literally. But
it's luck, isn't it? Everyone says, like, you know, luck is a huge part of it.
Definitely luck, but there's also like an aspect of like credit to yourself for just like throwing yourself out there, because I feel like a lot of the time, especially in lockdown, you know, I feel like people were like just, you know, that whole industry seems like it's died for like a bit. You know?
Well, it was because of agencies couldn't be seen to be breaking the rules. So if you were signed by an agent, you were prohibited from playing. But I didn't have an agent at the time. So I was just like, let's go. And obviously I was given the headline slot. Rather than, even if you get booked later, predominantly the time you'll be playing to empty room or just filling up. Whereas if someone puts you on, they can put you on a better time slot. No,
that makes a lot of sense. And sort of in terms of like, you know, with a lot of your releases and in terms of your experience, I obviously understand that you've been signed to labels and whatnot. Now that we have, what I've noticed anyway, we have like this huge surge in social media of like these creative personalities online. You know, is that like something that maybe is like resonated with you in the sense that like you're like, I could maybe become a sort of independent artist? Is that something? Is that what you are?
Well, yeah. I think everything's becoming decentralized, isn't it? Now you don't have to rely on going to a big agency to get gigs. If you have a TikTok reel that blows up, they'll probably approach you. Yeah. So yeah, in that sense, yeah, you can really engineer that. But this is my take. Yeah. So I think that when you have something go viral, it's normally because the track, it's made a moment and that moment has gone viral. I don't really agree with let me try and go viral without that initial piece of value in a piece of creative that then propels you. Like, you know, I would rather still it come from something I've made that makes a moment, that makes a video, and that video goes viral, rather than me going, you know what, I'm gonna cut up salami and do like some cooking routine while I'm mixing because it's gimmicky. Because then if you're known for that, that's all you have. That's what you always have to do.
I know, man.
So if you set the pace, then that's what you've continually got to do. So I'd rather just like
be authentic,
make good tracks, and if that track makes a moment which then translates to a TikTok video going viral, then that will be...
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense, because I feel like kind of the conversations I've had with other artists and whatnot, you know, there's always like a battle with the right audience as well. You know, it's like, if you are putting that sort of content out, that sort of music and whatnot, it's like, you know, how do you really know you're reaching the right people as well?
Yeah, true. I mean, well, the good thing about the viral content is that you don't know who you're going to reach, isn't it? That's the whole beauty, that the reach is open. Yeah. But I do like the way Instagram's working now, the fact that reels are open to everyone and your normal posts are just for your followers. Yeah. But obviously that's the algorithm this week. Yeah. Could be different next week. Do you know what I mean? It's always changing. But
you're right. And would you know, obviously, like along your journey, you've probably met so many people in terms of like whether that's like in a professional sense or creative sense. You know, is there anyone that you would say has like almost influenced you heavily to a certain extent that they've always been like a mentor, or would you say that you've very much just been someone that's like just gone out and done it yourself?
I think right now I'm kind of just doing my thing, but initially at the beginning, I think Dennis Cruz was one of the people that I really looked up to as a DJ, as a producer. And at the start, I was making music that was very similar to him. And because of that, he was the first person to play my music, to champion my music, to get me into the circles that I needed to. So shout out to Dennis for that, because he was a massive influence at the start. Styles changed a little bit because of kind of the commercialization of tech house. I've kind of gone a little bit more minimal with it recently, just because I found it was just becoming too formulaic. And my whole point of making music was, the whole point of doing underground music at the start was that I could make something which didn't necessarily have to meet the criteria of, you know, a typical tech house song. You know, have the hook here, have the drop there, this noise, that noise, where I can like explore creativity a little bit more. Yeah. I like that. And I like the fact things have gone a bit deeper. And but at the start, Dennis especially, like,
nice, man.
He's a really good guy. Everyone at Solid Grooves, to be honest, they were all very like welcoming to me. Do you know what I mean? Michael Beebe supported me heavily. All them guys, you know.
Nice, man.
Shout to Grooves.
Would you say then, like, you have a sort of process for when you're creating this music? Is there like things that you would sort of come across in your day to day that would sort of like inspire your process, or are you someone who kind of like would open a laptop and then that's when it starts like come to your brain?
I mean, it's just different. It's always different. Like sometimes it will be like I'm watching a movie and I'll be like, what is that song? I need to sample it. Straight in the studio, start with the sample, let that inspire the music in the track. Other times it will be, let me make a beat, no reference, or just let me vibe, and then I'll then build on top of that. So I'll make a track and then go, you know what, I could do with this style vocal. Go and look for it.
Yeah.
So it depends. I haven't got any specific, step-by-step method.
Yeah.
It's always different.
Sounds quite natural then.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And, it was really interesting sort of at the start of this conversation when you were mentioning, being on a bike going down to this jungle and like, this, you're in a lake in Italy and, all these insane experiences that must just like really sort of just like expand your sort of view of the world and whatnot. But I suppose like, do you have like a sort of peak moment, would you say? Like, have you got like a highlight in your career so far up till now?
I mean, there's a lot. I think it would have to be, again, MK put me on a gig where I played in Liverpool. So you know it well, Blackstone Warehouse. You know that, maybe?
No.
It's a huge warehouse in Liverpool, Blackstone Warehouse. They hold a lot of like huge gigs there. I think it's 5,000-6,000 capacity.
Wow, nice. And
he put me on. It was me, Clooney, Idris, MK, and some girl called Taria, I think, or something. And she was on first. Obviously, when you start in a venue like that, a lot of people don't even arrive till 2 hours after it starts.
Sure, yeah.
People started trickling in, but at the start of my set, I had about 400 people. And then I had 5,000 at the end in the space of an hour and a half.
Wow.
So to see that crowd building and to feel the energy, it was just...
That's crazy.
Unbelievable.
That is wild.
I think that was definitely one of the peak time moments because I played a lot of the tracks that I'd made in lockdown and stuff like that there. But I'd also say in my previous career, I played Burning Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I played Burning Man there, and I got a crazy story actually about that.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I went to Burning Man. This is still one of the like pinch me kind of things. I've told this story a lot because it is so mad.
Yeah.
So initially I went there. It was under my previous name, my own name, and I was doing kind of progressive house at the time. And I went there, and it was me, Funk Agenda, Nervo Twins, a couple of other people. I think Afire's previous name. And I got there and I was playing Sunrise, 7, 8 a.m. And Funk Agenda was on before me and he only had like 300-400 people. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got on, there must have been like 20 people there. Like sun was up, everyone was absolutely wasted. People were just leaving left, right and centre. Yeah. I got on there. I had these weird VDJ decks or VD, I can't remember what they were, but basically they were like for videos, but you could play...
Wow.
You could play on them if you...
So those are the things that you can like almost mix visuals with, is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But you can use them for things as well. But I could not beat match at all. And it was literally the worst set I've ever played. And I remember leaving the stage thinking, I've travelled all this way to Nevada. Mm-hmm. And that just can't be it. And I kind of remember going back to my year afterwards. And I was like, in the year, I was thinking, Jesus, like, it's got to be something else here. It's got to be something else.
Yeah.
So
you just feel it.
Yeah, I was disappointed, but I was also like, I wish that I could give more because, I was so excited.
100%.
And then it got to the end of the festival, Friday night, peak time. There was a guy called Simon Patterson who's meant to be playing, big trance guy. And he had a panic attack because of the conditions.
With the heat?
Yeah, it's everything. It's if you're an anxious person, no phone signal, no running water, all these things, they influence your anxiety. And I think he just had a bit of a panic attack or whatever.
Sure.
So the promoter came up to me
and
he was like, look, can you play? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, can you play? I was like, when? He was like, now. I was like,
no way. It's like right now.
So it was peak time.
Yeah.
4,500 people.
Yeah.
On the stage. Mm-hmm. I got up and played. So it was so mad, like having that initial, what I originally got booked for, playing to 40 people, to what I ended up playing was 4,500, which wasn't planned.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy.
That's insane. Was that wasn't the year where everyone was like stuck in the mud?
No, that was last year.
Yeah.
This was like 2015 time.
Wow.
Long time ago, yeah. Music was very different. I mean, I was very different, right, as an artist. didn't really know what I was doing as much as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's something that you never know till later.
Yeah, 100%. No, that sounds like an immense experience.
It was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, no, that does sound insane. So yeah, that probably does sound like a bit of a highlight, for it to be fair.
Yeah, for sure. It was one of the most like karma giving experiences, you know, where I was just like, oh man, can't believe, like, so disappointed, and I was kind of wishing for more, and I got it, which is something, you know, people say about manifestation, all that kind of thing. I firmly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the track that I signed to Solid Grooves, they have a style and a concept for their DC-10 party in Ibiza, which is around a casino motel.
Nice.
So I called the track that I wanted to sign to them Roll the Dice.
Sick.
And it got signed to Solid Grooves.
That's class.
Yeah.
I love that you've almost like played into there.
Yeah. Well, like, it just, because the track didn't have a definitive concept.
Yeah.
And I knew it was so Solid Grooves, the track. Yeah. I just thought, let's call it Roll the Dice. I like the title. And I just thought it was in keeping.
Yeah. No, that definitely sounds like a bit of a vibe.
Yeah. And sometimes when I finish tracks, I can imagine, actually not so much when I finish tracks, but when I have a gig, I can imagine a certain moment with a track I've made,
mm-hmm.
and I imagine what it's going to be like mm-hmm. in the event, and how it's going to work, and what people are going to say to me after even.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't always. Sometimes it can go completely wrong.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times I feel like manifestation is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Because if you can see it happening, you can make it happen, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I think in everything I've been doing recently in life, I feel like just manifesting, almost just like having that positive attitude towards things, and a bit of gratitude as well for things. And I don't know what it is, but I do genuinely think it helps a lot in terms of what you get.
So do I. I think if you're thankful for stuff, it kind of just, it makes you more appreciative of opportunities when they happen, and that shows to people. And then, you know, if you're really giving appreciation to someone, they're going to be like, okay, well, it's worthwhile me spending my time with this guy.
Definitely. And I think as well, like just in day-to-day life as well, I feel like the way that we live in this country, it's pretty good quality of life, you know, and I think it's easy to forget just how much we have.
How lucky we are,
Yeah. No,
it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's really cool you have that mindset. I think it's like, it's definitely like a blessing to have that in terms of like, you know, because not everyone does, you know.
No, and I don't think I do all the time. You know, sometimes I feel like, Jesus, like the music industry, everyone knows that it's a massive roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you will feel unbelievably blessed and appreciative of what's going on. And sometimes you will feel like you're a bit like, well, what's going on? Like, why can't I get my tracks on this label? And but it's literally like, you're not good enough. That's what I've learned over the years. Why can't I sign tracks? They're not good enough. Why can't I get a DJ set? You ain't networking hard enough. And it always starts with you. But the problem is that when you're in that funk, you're always looking for someone or something else to be the reason. And it always starts with you.
Oh, man. See, I feel like, but that realization that like internally is something that, you know, if you just, it's almost like accept a responsibility for that, you know.
Yeah.
You just accept that it's shit, or you accept that it's just not quite at that level. But
it's hard. That's so your hard. Ego and your pride.
Oh, man.
It's tough. But that's why it's so important to have people around you that are going to give it to you straight.
Yeah.
You know, when you send your track to the first 5 people, don't send it to people that are going to be like, yeah, sick, bro.
Yeah, man.
That you don't want it. You're going to be like, yeah, it's cool, but I'm not sure about this. And that advice can be really essential in finishing a track. No, because you're so close to it.
Yeah, and you want that as well. Like you wanna know what's cracked or what's good. Like, because ultimately you can't build on that if you're just hearing positives. Yeah.
And sometimes you're just so close to it that you don't notice. Like I had an example of a track. I did a remix for a friend of mine, his label. Finished the remix, and I said to him, and he was like, "Mate, why is it so swung? Why is the groove so swung?" And I was like, "I have no idea. I just thought it sounded good, but in terms of the track, it works so much better straighter." Changed the groove, and it finished the track. And like, and it got really well supported. Like Corolla played it 20 times or whatever.
Unreal, man.
So, you know, and he plays quite straight, to be fair. He doesn't play that garagey. Yeah. So if you think, like, if I did finish it swung,
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't have got that supported. So sometimes like people's input can be really good. Like I always like taking people's advice because I'm a servant to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I make music for myself. Yeah. But ultimately I'm making it for everyone else. I'm not making it for me really. Like if my track just sits there, it doesn't really give me any fulfillment. Like the fulfillment comes from people going, oh man, like, you know, you get a message going, I can't believe this track thing you played, it was a moment, you know, we'll remember this or whatever. Like that is what I do it for. I do it for the, oi, fuck off. You know, that's what you live for. Like if you don't get that, then you ain't done your job. So
I love that.
You live for that.
That's class. It must be like really satisfying as well, seeing that other people are playing your tunes. Like, just that feeling of like people resonating with it. And, you know, even like that Michael Beebe video that I saw is like
that was incredible.
Everyone's just like vibing to it.
I was just like, wow, and it's when you don't even know about it either, because I got sent, Solid Groove's put up this story, I got sent that story and they were like, I swear this is your track. I'm like, oh, like, it's a great feeling, man.
I can imagine. No, that's really cool. And just sort of like on kind of what we were talking about in terms of like the idea of like, you know, gratitude and things, and you know, when things are not quite going your way or whatever, do you find like motivation in the music industry is quite hard to maintain?
I mean, I've had, you know, I go up and down. All the best producers I know are the most bipolar, probably, because they've got their heart and soul invested. Things are going well, you're on top of the world. And the difference can be 2 or 3 weeks. And also if you take your eye off the ball. My main thing now is never think you got it made. Like there's this phrase, pride comes before the fall. I've learned throughout my life that is the most truest phrase, because as soon as you go, you know what, I got this. You know, in a relationship when you're like, oh yeah, she's cool, she's fine, I've got this. And that's when you should be giving her more attention, or you should be giving the music more attention. When you take your foot off the pedal and you go, you know what, I'm going to celebrate for a month. In a year's time, that month will be the downtime that you have, and you'll be like, why isn't anything going on? Because you missed that month. So the consistency is key.
It's a hard challenge for sure, because you definitely do need to maintain that sort of attitude. And it's definitely a task. But it sounds like you've kind of you're like aware of it. You know, like it's like
I like the hard way. You become aware of it when you make a mistake.
It's sometimes the only way to learn.
You know,
especially I can resonate with that 100%. But no, that's really, really sick. You know, I feel like we've learned a lot about like sort of your attitude in terms of that. You know, I've heard about your high points in terms of like your career so far. Imminently, you have a gig literally coming up, which is obviously in the future. But I suppose like further into the future, what things have you got coming up that are quite exciting that you're like buzzed about?
So I think the next stage for me is to start a label. I thought of the name. I'm just trying to do branding at the minute. So the next stage is that, because I feel like as much as we want to sign to the big labels, it's so hard to get a consistent release schedule relying on someone else's schedule. So you need to have a label which you can fill the gaps between the big releases with music that you're proud of, but you can release on your terms. So I think a label is the way forward. And potentially doing a party with that, but see how it goes. I mean, I tried launching a party before, and it's hard work. Like, I feel like something suffers. If you start being a promoter, your production suffers. And I just feel like I'm a better producer than a promoter. So lean on your strengths.
Fair. I think that sounds really exciting though, in terms of like the challenge, and almost like it's almost like the next phase in what you're trying to achieve. And I think like as well, you know, just that idea of having that sort of ownership of that, and you know, almost bringing people onto your journey.
Exactly. Because I know so many talented producers. It'd be nice to do some collaborations with them to release, and also like it just means that the people that follow you have a more consistent product.
Sure.
You know, you buy Nikes because they bring out a new Nike trainer all the time, right? So if they just stop doing new ones, you know, you wouldn't be that interested.
Yeah, that's true. Actually.
You know, McDonald's make a new burger every couple of months. Do you know what I mean? They're all the same. They just repackaged. It's like,
Yeah,
it keeps you hooked.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
So, but I think that's one of the aspects that one of my kind of less strong points is the marketing side of it. And that's what I'm trying to work on a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, you just have to, you've got to be an all-rounder these days.
I know, man.
You've got to do everything.
Literally, it does often feel like sometimes with things you're a bit of a one-man band with stuff, you know. Like,
massively.
It's like this,
yeah.
and that.
I think,
it's like,
you know what? For the people that I know that are successful, they're good at what they do, but they're also even better at finding people that do what they can't better.
100%.
And that's what I feel like is good in a boss.
Yeah.
Is delegating to the right people, playing to your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, getting people on board that can, you know, do that for you.
No, 100%. Like if you can find someone that, even if it's just someone's mindset that like you can bounce ideas off, you know, because I feel like
some people got business brains, some people got creative brains.
Yeah, 100%. Like I honestly do think that, like, see if you have like this solid idea in your head, like until you've like bounced it off someone else, then it's like it's almost like manifests in your head and doesn't quite get to where it could. But no, that's really, really cool. And you know, you've been great at answering all these questions. I just have like a couple more to ask you.
Yeah.
And one of them, well, sort of like two-parter. What would your dream back-to-back be, and where would it be? It can be any time zone of you know, history.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere.
Oh, I see.
It could be like you know, anywhere.
Should have given me that one before, mate. I think, like, speaking right now, I think it would probably still be to go back to back with Cruise, because like it was such a, like, you know, initial like birth time for me when I first came in the scene, and like I still think he's one of the best DJs out there.
Yeah.
So I'd love to play back to back with Dennis Cruz. That would be amazing, you know, at Solid Grooves in Kappa.
Yeah. Sick. That would be class.
Because I've always wanted to play Kappa.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to play the big tunnel.
Yeah.
It just looks amazing. I've never been to the festival.
Same. I really want to.
But I would love to go, and I'd love to play there. But I would also love to play a Paradise Party.
Sick.
And I'd love to go back to back with something like WAF as well, because I feel like WAF is sick DJ, man. You know, as much as people, I rate them as producers, as terms of DJs, I think, you know, WAF, Dennis Cruz, two of the best. And I think that I'd play well with them. Also love the way Chris Stussy plays as well.
Yeah. I've not seen him yet, but I do want to.
I love his music, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great DJ and a just amazing producer as well.
Yeah.
So that would be really good. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question.
I know. I was hoping it'd be a difficult one.
Yeah.
I ended out on a bang. But, you know, that sounds class. I definitely want to go Kappa. I'm actually going to Exit Festival in a couple of weeks. Like, I've never been to Serbia at all, so that's going to be an interesting experience. But yeah, also, like, Junction 2 looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it does.
You know, that sort of, like, under the motorway vibe is
that's similar to Kappa, isn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of...
That's what it reminded me of when you described it.
Yeah. It's epic.
Oh, mate, it's just the scale. Like,
yeah, it is the scale,
it just...
Yeah, because a lot of people are like... When you play the bigger crowds, you're more disconnected. I noticed that at that Blackstone Warehouse gig. Like, excuse me, when I was playing the tracks, it was almost like a delay for the drop reaction getting to me, because there was a delay from, obviously, the music coming from me to getting to them, and then a delay from them hearing it and then coming back to me. So it was like, there's a massive disconnect. That's why I love gigs like 93 Feet East and stuff here, the smaller, intimate ones, because you're just in the crowd. And like, I'd love to play Boiler Room.
Oh, mate.
Something like that.
Yeah, because there's an event coming up in August, and that looks class. But yeah, no, you just reminded me, the way you described, like, everyone coming into the room like that, it must have almost been like you were, like, growing it.
Yeah. It was just crazy seeing how quickly it because it just flooded.
Yeah.
And it was mad when I saw the pictures before and after.
You felt powerful. You're like, I have power.
Yeah, I mean, I did. Yeah. But I also felt it was also very, like, surreal. Like, it didn't, while I didn't really absorb it until after I came off.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of, the adrenaline's there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's interesting. And then sort of last thing would be like, is there something you would say to your younger self at all in terms of for maybe
Start earlier.
Yeah, nice.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not always the way, is it?
No,
but like, if I was as good as I am now 10 years ago, wow,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it'd just be unbelievable.
yeah,
But you know, everyone has their own journey, and whether I would have got here, because you got to remember, when you come into music, the scene is in a particular place. If I wanted to do house 10 years before, maybe there wouldn't have been the scene there to do it.
Yeah.
So
True.
yeah, all in. Everyone has their own path, but yeah, that would be what I'd say for sure.
Nice. No, I mean, I agree with you. I think like also if you'd done it at a different time, you might not have met that person at that time. And
Exactly.
probably
I wouldn't have seen Pulp Fiction.
Bartman Man as well, mate. Like
Yeah.
he wouldn't have had a panic attack at the time you were
Exactly.
there.
Yeah.
You know, which is just mad to think.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
It's yeah, it is your journey.
yeah, you're right.
That's the main thing.
You're right, man. Well, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat, and I just love like the depth that you've gone into things and the insight that you've given me and whoever else is listening. I think it's amazing.
I appreciate you having me on, mate.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
been a pleasure, and also just like wanted to say like I think your attitude's amazing, and I think that with your future ambitions, I'm sure that it's all going to fall into place based on how you've been speaking. So
Thanks,
good
mate.
luck with
I
them.
appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much,
no
man.
worries, man.
Cheers, mate.